I can't believe I'm saying this, but yes, Vox was right. Or rather, let me rephrase that. The sinners are right, and Vox, the opportunistic shithead, took advantage of that to push his own agenda and accomplish his aims. But it doesn't take away from the fact that Vox was right, because the sinners are right to be angry, and Evan's biggest mistake is their willful ignorance of that fact. Because I don't know who needs to hear this, but a gift basket does not make up for a genocide, no matter how delicious the sweets you put in it are. So, just like a lot of you, I finally caught up with episodes 5 and 6 of Hazbin Hotel. And whilst I have a lot of thoughts about what was revealed in episode 6, I did not see the spy reveal coming. Poor Angel. I also have a lot of thoughts about what we got in episode 5, specifically the scene with Vox at his rally and the Angel's appearance, gift basket in hands, and an apology on their lips. Because what does it say about me? That I started cackling the same way Vox did when they said so. That I have more in common with the TV ad? I hope not. No, it's the fact that I'm a firm believer that apologies don't fix the harm you've caused. Matter of fact, they often are worded in a way to make whoever has caused the harm feel better about themselves as they await the victim's acceptance of that apology. And you know what? Not all victims will say, I forgive you. Some might, others won't. And usually, when they don't, it's because of the scale of the harm and the hurt that was wrought. And we see this quite clearly in the scene. Now, you all know how big a fan I am of Serpentius. I've mentioned in my previous videos that he is my third favorite character in the show, only falling behind Alistair, who is number 1, and Nifty, who is number 2. So, like I said, I love Serpentius. But having him quote Charlie's line to him about it starts with sorry when he's giving advice to the angels who were debating on the best way to convey their apologies and remorse to the sinners made me want to go into the scene itself and scream at all of them. Because right in that meeting room was where heaven lost it. Because sure, it starts with sorry, but they never actually took the time to sit down and find out what comes after sorry. For Serpentius, it was a slow redemption and acclimatization and acceptance into the hotel, becoming friends in a way that he was willing to sacrifice his life for them, and he did for Cherry Bomb when the moment arose. That was what redeemed him, his decision to finally right the wrongs of his mortal life and stand up for those who he wants to protect, even with the threat to his own life. We see that as a culmination of a redemption arc that started with sorry. But the thing is that it was his redemption arc. One that began as a result of his discovered attempt at being a spy, a failed spy, mind you, because no one was buying that. It cannot be compared with what has basically been heaven-sanctioned systemic extermination of sinners for the last 7 years. And yet, none of the angels actually considered that or even thought about it. Loot doesn't count, mind you, because we all know she's just a seething, powdered keg waiting to explode, driven and fueled by so much hate and rage crafted by heaven's cruelty itself. Like I said, outside of Loot, the other angels never really took the time to consider it. Instead, we see in that scene that their focus was on the words itself and not the fact that Serpentius with his actions has to then prove how sorry he was. I think it says a lot that whilst they were putting together their gift baskets and making their way to hell, the only ones in that group who were aware of the number of casualties that hell had suffered in the almost 10 to 14 exterminations that Evan had executed were Lut, who definitely doesn't give a shit, and Sarah, who is so laden with guilt that she doesn't want to really think about it. And that for me is where the wheels start to screech, because part of being sorry and trying to make amends for the wrong and hurt you've caused to others, which is a core part of restorative justice, which is what I support as I'm a proponent of the abolition of prisons, is the acknowledgement of the harm that was caused, as well as leaving space for the injured party, the victim in this situation, to be the one to highlight exactly what they need from the perpetrator in order for them to start to heal and for there to be a possible reconciliation. And we don't get that with heaven in that scene because once again, the angel showed up with a half baked plan of a gift basket and an apology that wasn't very well thought through. And Sarah, who refuses to think about what she's done. Like, I know the scene is played for laughs. Hazbin Hotel is an animated musical comedy after all, but at the same time, it's a show that tackles difficult topics like assault, addiction, and in this case, genocide. And the question to consider, therefore, is how to best move forward. And the only way for that to happen is to start with both parties being aware of the wrong committed, why it is wrong, and the harm it has caused. The fact that the rest of the angels were blindsided and shocked when they were brought face to face with the atrocities that heaven had committed on their scheduled visits to hell was not a good look for them. The fact that they thought they were going to get any other reception that isn't furious rage just goes to show how disconnected they are from the harm they've caused. And please, this isn't me attempting to shit on Charlie, but it says a lot that she's so caught up in her head about wanting hell to know that redemption is possible and to clear up her name that she never actually considers that redemption is a whole different topic from the unceasing exterminations that the netizens of hell have had to deal with for the past 7 years. I blame it on the fact that, let us be real, Charlie was never really in danger during those times. And so whilst her heart breaks that so many of our people are dead, she really can't fathom the helplessness that has now turned to rage that the average sinner feels towards the angels who are harbingers of that. And so her suggestion that the angels show up at Vox's rally with their gift baskets and no clear and outlined plan on how they intend to show the sinners the extent of their remorse and the effort they intend to put into repairing the relationship between heaven and hell reflects that. Now, is this me implying that Vox knows the helplessness that the average sinner feels about the exterminations? Yes. Because Vox, as much as I loathe his ass, can you all tell I'm not a big Vox fan? As I was saying, Vox is the face of media in hell, which means that on him falls the responsibility that is documenting and sharing the information available amongst the sinners in hell. Vox Tech would most likely have cameras on ground the minute the exterminations begin. It might be separate from all of that and protected by virtue of the fact that he is an overlord and so he would not be killed. But it is through his eyes, his camera lenses, that the rest of hell get to see how the exterminations are going every time they start, which areas are being leveled, which communities are being slaughtered. And it is through the media he controls that hell knows when they can take a deep breath of relief once the exterminations are done for that particular cycle. It falls to reason that even if he doesn't give a shit, and we know he doesn't, he still has the knowledge and the wherewithal to take advantage of the pain he knows the sinners have been through in order to make his point and serve his objective. The angels didn't take the time to consider that, which is why they were so unprepared. And to then make matters worse, they bring along Lut, who, like I said, is a loose cannon, the very face of the exorcist that the sinners have learned to fear and loathe, and Sarah, who is still battling her grief and in so doing, played directly into Vox's hands by pointing him out as the dangerous type of sinners that the exterminations were meant for. Like, sure, he is dangerous, but what makes him so dangerous to her is because he's saying the truth about the sinner's experience that Sarah had closed her heart and mind to after giving Adam the permission to institute the exterminations. Her guilt and her anger roiled into a colossal mess that had her making statements that she would have been better served not saying at all because it made things so much worse. And whilst that scene played out with us feeling sad for the angels and how it seemed like they were being overwhelmed by the sinners in the moment, and I'm sure a lot of people watching would have felt that way, I instead read that scene as an accurate depiction of the work that needs to be put in when a perpetrator of harm is seeking to make amends for the wrongs that they have committed. The victims are not going to hold their hands and sing Kumbaya. They would be agitated and angry, and some might even get violent in some cases. The onus is on the person who is seeking forgiveness to approach that table with a clear plan of how they intend to go about gaining that. And until heaven comes correct with what their plans are, that go beyond a mere sorry and a gift basket, no matter how laden with sweet it is, I will always side with the sinners in this regard. Because 7 years of terror cannot be undone with 3 mere words. It just can't. It just can't happen. And before you say anything, yes, I know war isn't the answer. And like we've already established, Vox is merely exacerbating the situation to serve his own power-hungry interests that we know are feeding into his God complex. However, I do hope that the season does make a clear delineation between Vox's bullshit and the sinner's clear and justified demand for restitution for what they've suffered. But that won't make for a good story and conflict, would it? I know what I want, but I also know that this event will most likely tip heaven into war with hell. I just hope that when the dust settles, heaven is brought to account for the ills they've committed and they make active choices to try and fix things to make up for what they've done. Because if there is anything that would piss me off, it's if the story tries to spin this into some heaven and hell are both to blame apologist bullshit. Now that would set me off. But of course, that is just me. I would, as always, love to hear your thoughts. Whether you agree with me or not, please share them in the comments. Like this video if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet. Share this if you want. Support me on Patreon if you can. If you can't, however, do consider checking out my other channels. One is my gaming channel and the other holds my ASMR content. I have both of them linked in the description bar if they sound like something you might be interested in. Whichever the case may be, however, I will see you tomorrow with a new video. Until then, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.